Hi everyone and welcome to SWPL My Story, and today we are joined by Suzanne Winters. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Good, thanks for joining us, and
No problem.
what a place.
I know, brings some good memories playing here, I tell you that.
Excellent. So today we just want to talk about your career,
Yep.
everything that you've achieved. There's a lot to talk about.
Quite a lot, yeah. I've been at a few clubs, Martin, as you know, so we could be here all day.
So just where did it all start for you? What was your first club? How did you get into football?
I'm from a small town in the Highlands, Grattan-on-Spey, so my dad used to play for our local team, Grattan United, so me, my twin sister and our other friend, Vicky Patterson, who eventually played football as well, I used to watch my dad and then kick about a ball at the side with the boys, so I was like to my sister, I think I quite fancy giving this a shot. But up north we didn't really have a lot of opportunities. There wasn't even many boys teams, if I'm being honest, letting on girls. So my mum had to go into the school and ask the school if we could play with the boys, because back then girls had to play netball in our school, boys played football.
Right, okay.
So the head teacher agreed it were, parents. And then we just kind of played, but I didn't play with a girls team. My first cap actually for Scotland, I was still with a boys team, my school team. I hadn't really played a competitive game at that point, to be honest. And then Ross County, they kind of done like an apprentice thing. So there were 6 girls and we trained full time. We lived in digs in Inverness with families. So I moved out of home. And it was quite hard actually, moving just 45 minutes down the road, Grattan to Inverness. So that was good. Sometimes we'd train with under 19 Ross County boys. And then Glasgow City came in for me and my sister, but I'd already had my first cap at that point. So when I signed at Glasgow City, that was my first real time with a women's team.
Yeah, when I was doing my research and I read that,
Yeah.
that's something that's unheard of. It probably will never happen again.
No, never. Hopefully it doesn't anyway. Especially the progression of the women's game now. I take my son's wee team and there's girls coming through now at like age 5, and I was just like, that was me, but I didn't have the opportunity to play with girls at that age.
So then, as you said, you then signed for Glasgow City. That was your first taste of women's football. How did you find that adjustment? Yeah,
it was really difficult. Me and my twin sister used to drive down for training Tuesday, Thursday, then the game on the Sunday. So it was a 7-hour round trip for 2 hours training. So it was really challenging, obviously, being from the Highlands. Back then I was quiet, not now, by the way, Mark. I'm sure you've heard some stories. I'm not quiet now. So obviously coming into an all-women's changing room, me and my sister were like, this is brilliant. The girls were great, they welcomed us in, the team were great, changing room, the team morale. So it was really good. It was definitely, at that point, I thought this is what I want to do full time.
So then you went into that first season. How did you find that when you're going into like a full campaign of women's football? Obviously demands are greater going to Glasgow City. And the expectations that are there at that club, is that something that you quite enjoyed? You like that?
Yeah, obviously I hadn't heard a lot about Glasgow City, being from the Highlands as well. Back then we didn't really have any role models. It wasn't televised. We didn't have the platform that's now, that we could see all these players playing.
Yeah.
So it was all new to me and my sister. Like I said, we'd never played with a women's team. And then obviously now what Glasgow City have achieved speaks for itself, and what they've done in terms of for the Scottish game here, pushing the game on. Laura's done great in there, so it was really good. We had a lot of success at Glasgow City. I scored a lot of goals for Glasgow City, and at that point, like I said, that's what I wanted to do full time and push on from there.
So when you went to City, you've already touched on it, you were so successful.
Yep.
But scoring a hat-trick in the Scottish Cup final, that'd be up there for you?
Yeah, that was a special one for me. I think for me as a player, not many people may agree, the cup games for me were special, very special. And it was at Perth, so St Johnstone's Ground, McDermott Park. So my family travelled because it wasn't so far for them.
Yeah.
So I remember my family being in the crowds, because back then we would only maybe get 200-300 in. It was the Scottish Cup games that you would get your biggest crowds. So it was really good scoring a hat-trick in front of my family. It was a special one.
So once you moved on from Glasgow City, you then went to Hibs, and it was another successful time for your career.
Yeah, it was. For me, the Hibs changing room, the players were there. They were the girls. There was a lot of internationals that were at Hibs. We won the treble with Hibs there, and it was the changing room. I mean, hilarious changing room. Stacey Cook was the main culprit in that changing room. Pretty sure Marcel was in there as well. Just great club. Loved it at Glasgow City. Went to Hibs. Loved it. It was just two different kind of changing rooms. Both really good clubs in terms of what they've achieved. Still now, obviously, Hibs are up there challenging as well. So it's really good to see that they've pushed on since you know, I've been there as well.
So when you were there and you already touched on it, you won the treble.
Yeah.
That then set you up for a move to Arsenal. Is
Yeah.
that something that you seen on the cards? Was that an ambition when you started playing?
No, I was, see, when I got that phone call, I thought it was a prank, to be honest. Still to this day, I pinch myself for getting that opportunity to play at such a huge club, you know, at Arsenal, and then went down there and done the treble with them in the same season. So I did the double treble. So for me to have that, you know, on my name is unbelievable, and still to this day I don't know why they selected me. Obviously I'd done well at Hibs, but the jump was massive, and I took the opportunity and I loved every single minute of it.
That's something I was going to ask you about. So the difference in professionalism, standards, like how did you manage that?
Yeah, it was going from the Highlands to Glasgow City was a huge jump. Glasgow City to Hibs, similar jump because obviously same level, and then jumping to Arsenal was just massive. In terms of professionalism, you know, what the girls got, it was just such a huge gulf compared to here in Scotland. So it kind of opened my eyes to kind of push for more up here, because I was really grateful for everything that, you know, I got at the time. But when I went to Arsenal, I was like, why are we not getting that in Scotland? We should be getting this. Let's push even more. And now obviously it's creeping up. You know, there still is a bit of a gulf between, you know, Scotland and the English leagues. But it is closing, and it's great that all these people are doing the hard work behind the scene. And I would like to think it took us pioneers, as we call us, to close that gap and help it improve here in Scotland.
So when you were down there again, you've got so many highlights of your career, but scoring the only goal in the FA Cup final.
Yeah, it was actually the last game of the season to win the league.
Was it?
For Arsenal against Everton. It was 1-0, and it was actually another Scot, Kim Little, that she took the corner and put it into the back post. And yeah, I was lucky, just it fell to my foot. It's a great ball by Kim. I can't really say I scored. I didn't really have to do much, but just be there. Yeah, it was a special feeling, and that was actually my last game for Arsenal. And then I came back and signed with Celtic, so it was a special one. When
you were down at Arsenal, how did you find it when you're trying to manage like your personal life, work life, football? Was that probably a difficulty?
Yeah, looking back now, I actually don't know how I managed it all, to be honest, because I used to fly down to Arsenal for training and the games, so I never lived down there. I didn't fully commute. I just travelled. So they would book my flights, car be at the airport, play 90 minutes or 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever minutes I got, back in the car after and straight back to the airport. So I didn't have, the thing that I found difficult down there, I didn't really know the players that well, because I was just turning up for games, trained occasionally, and then back on the flight back to Scotland. I was studying full time then as well, so yeah, working as well. So looking back, I don't even know how I managed to do it.
That's what people don't maybe fully appreciate when they see you and you're playing for Arsenal and you're scoring goals and you've got this footballer life, but then they don't see all the hard work that goes in behind that as well.
Yeah, I think people back then, when I said, oh yeah, I play with Arsenal, they just thought that's all I'd done, and you know, I didn't have to work, I didn't study, but no, I had to back then. But for me, I didn't see it hard work at the time, because I was so grateful that I got the opportunity to do it. But now obviously the progression of the women's game, now I'm like, oh, I wish I could have just done it full time, just be a full-time footballer. But look, I was really fortunate enough, you know, I did get paid through my career, so you know, I was really grateful for the things that I did get. But now obviously the way the women's game is now, that yeah, all the girls should be getting paid full time. So
then you come back up the road and signed with Celtic when you came back to Scotland. A really successful time again for you.
Yeah, I had a great 6 years with Celtic. I was actually training with Celtic and then flying to Arsenal. So when I wasn't training with Arsenal, I was training with Celtic, and then they were like, will you sign with us? And I was like, I'm at Arsenal at the moment. And then I thought, you know what, the girls at Celtic were great, the training was great, you know, I got on really well with all the girls. And I thought, at that point, Kelly Smith, she was injured at the time. I thought, I'm not going to be playing down at Arsenal, you know, likes of Kelly Smith's coming back in, there's no way they're going to select me over Kelly. So I took the decision to just play every week, and obviously playing for your country, it was important to get game time. So I was like, I'm going to hopefully get game time at Celtic. So I took the decision to sign with Celtic, and I had a great 6 years at Celtic.
Yeah, lots of goals, more domestic silverware as well for you.
Yeah, like that. I just go into every club, and I hope that, you know, I've had the success that I have at every club, and I've been really fortunate that most clubs I've been at, you know, I've won a trophy, or you know, we've won the titles. So yeah, it's something in your career that you thrive to get, and I was really fortunate to get all that.
So when you've then returned to Celtic, and then you find out you're going to be a mum,
Yep.
And what went through your head at that point in relation to your football career? Did you think at that point that's it, or did you always think, no, I'll come back?
If I'm being honest, I left it so long in my career because I thought there's not many mums in the game, you know, that have had kids. I know Julie Fleeton done it before me, and she got to go away with the squad. Her first child, Ella, but at club level, you know, I was thinking my husband plays as well. I've not got the support. I've not got family down here, so it was different for me because I was like, who's going to babysit my child? My husband's at training, so he couldn't take the baby to training.
Yeah.
Imagine saying to Scaffer, it's all right if the wee man comes to training. So I thought, well, if I leave it till later in my career, if I don't manage it, then, you know, I've had a successful career. But at that point, I was like, I think I can. I trained right through my pregnancy with Oscar, came back really quick. And yeah, it seemed to work out for me fine at the start.
And when you were at Celtic at the time, obviously, and was there support there for you?
Yeah, there was. I think at the end, well, as Oscar got older into a bit of a routine, I asked for maybe a couple of sessions off, and they were like, oh, I don't know, because other girls are training 5 nights a week. And I said, yeah, but they've not got a child. And I just think back then, looking back, they didn't know how to handle it. They've never had a player in their changing room that had a child. So I just made the decision, like, okay, it's getting harder for me to try and juggle routine for my child, taking him to Lennoxtown, because we trained 8 to 10 at night as well, so it was really late to bring a baby to training.
Yeah.
And then the club are obviously looking at other players that are at training, son, you need to be, but obviously other players weren't a parent or a mum, so
Yeah.
it became really challenging at that point. And being a first-time mum, I was tired. I came back when he was 5 weeks old and played 90 minutes, so I probably hadn't had enough rest and recovery and, you know, let my body get back to a little bit of normality. So that was the decision I made then, to go, you know what, I think that's me, I'm done, just want to concentrate on being a mum.
So your husband David went and he's a footballer, and he went and played in Vietnam for a season, and you went over and joined him, but that also impacted on your career because you had to take a break from your football.
Yeah, still to this day I do not know why we went to Vietnam. Don't get me wrong, it was an experience, but it was really challenging over there. So originally, obviously David got the call from his agent, like, Vietnam, good deal on the table, so he took it, and then I flew over to join him, hoping to get a women's team. But over in that country there was not a women's team near where David was playing. It was like a 6-hour drive or a flight away, so, and they didn't really allow foreign players then to play in the women's team. Even in the men's team, they're only allowed 2 foreigners in each team, so it just wasn't an option. So I was like to David, I've come over here wanting to play in a women's team, and there's not a women's team. I couldn't even train over there with the boys or the men. They wouldn't allow it in these countries, just, you know, different views to over here. So when David finished training, he'd meet me after, and me and him would just go and play football together to try and keep me at least kicking a ball, because I was still playing with Scotland at the time, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be difficult. You know, I still need to be fit, I still need to play. But I'm saying lucky enough, David picked up an injury that managed to fly him back to Scotland. So in the back of my mind, I was secretly delighted because then I knew I could get back to playing back here. And yeah, it was a difficult country to stay in, if I'm being honest.
But you were glad to come home anyway.
I was delighted to come home, delighted. But like I said, it was a whole new experience over there for him, for me. We went together. It just didn't work out as much for me because there just wasn't a women's team to play, like I said. But yeah, it was a good experience, but it was great to land back in Scotland.
So I think it's safe to say it's very much a footballing family.
Yeah, there's loads of footballers in our family. And so there's Robbie Winters, David's brother, my husband's brother. Obviously David was a footballer, still involved. He's now assistant manager at Darvel. My twin sister Shelley played, and her husband is Don Cowie, who has played in England and Scotland and is now assistant manager to Ross County. So yeah. So
high hopes for your boys as well then.
Everybody says that, but yeah, look, for me, for the kids as well, it's just about them enjoying it, and they're now at the W Academy. It's a great setup, their philosophy for the kids, and I'm now involved with Theo's wee team, my youngest, so I take them, and honestly see the wee ones coming through. It's just reminds me of me playing, and there's loads of girls involved as well, and that's also important for me because I look at the girls like that was me when I played. So yeah, it's great, the opportunities all these young ones have got coming through now.
Yeah, so when you've then returned, you ended up signing with Motherwell, and that was a different type of project from probably what you were used to throughout the rest of your career. Yeah,
so after Celtic I was like, that's me, I'm retired, and I think it must have been about, I would say 4 to 6 months, and then Motherwell came on the blur and like, son, do you want to come back and play? And I was like, oh no, like, I'm out. And then at that point I think I really struggled mentally coming away from the game because my whole world was football, and then the next minute I'm like, I'm just a mum. That sounds terrible, but I was like, at least I had football, it was a thing for me, and it was my whole life was football. So just going to a routine with a baby, I missed it so much. I missed the game so much, especially the change room. The girls, you meet so many friends through the game, as you know, Martin. But they didn't have kids, so they were all training at football, and then so I'd lost all my friends. My family were at North. I hadn't lost my friends, I just didn't see them as much, so it was really challenging mentally for me. And then when Motherwell came in, I thought, they entered a team into the 3rd division, like we're trying to build them up to the Premier League. Would you like to come in and try and help? And I thought, I'm not sure if I'll help, but yeah, I'm happy just to come back, kick a ball, no pressure being at a lower league, and just get back enjoying playing football.
And there's one match in particular that always comes up when your name's involved, your debut for Motherwell, 11 goals in one game.
Yeah, to be honest, I was secretly buzzing because I thought, oh no, they've asked me to come in, my careers that I've had, and I was like, there's pressure on me here to get a goal. So I was like to my husband, to David, what if I don't score? Like, they're asking me in to try and get them goals to help them out, and there's a few other ex-internationals in the team as well that they got in, a few of us, to try and help the team. And I was like, what if I don't score? And then I phoned my husband after the game. He's like, did you score? And I was like, yeah, just the 11. But yeah, it was a good moment for me. But yeah, sometimes when you play teams like this, you feel sorry for the opposition as well, because I think it ended up 18-0. And that's, for me, the games that you don't want to play in. You want it to be close, you want it to be competitive. So as much as I was buzzing, it was 11 goals for me. I would rather a game that I'd scored one and then it was more competitive.
So in your time at Motherwell, the objective was to get them up the leagues, and you managed to do that. Is that something you take a lot of pride in as well? Because as I say, it wasn't going and winning Scottish Cups and FA Cups, but it was helping a club fulfil their ambition. Yeah,
of course, and that's again goes down to the development of the game. You want it to develop, and obviously Motherwell, had a lot of aspiration to get up to the Premier League, so they obviously took a lot of girls, that ex-international players that retired, thought, look, come back, there's no pressure, play at the lower levels, not so much commitment, but it was the standard was amazing at Motherwell. The training was great, the resources that they had and stuff, it was fantastic at Motherwell, and we done what we were asked. We got up to the Premier League, and then I found out I was pregnant actually in the last game that I got injured. There was 3 games to end the season. I was 3.5 months pregnant with my youngest now, Theo. So like that, I thought I could play in the Premier League. I could come back and do what I'd done with Oscar, and then slide tackle, pregnant, glass on the pitch, knee ripped right open. Taking Oscar to school in a stookie, pregnant. I thought, this is it, I'm out. And then they won the last game. They got them up to the Premier League, and then I thought, just leave.
Good way to sign off.
Good way to sign off. Take in, fitter, younger players, and that's what they've done in Motherwell. Are still now in the Premier League, doing really well, and pushing now for trying further up that league. Yeah. So it's great to see.
So your international career, you're in the Roll of Honour list, 105 caps.
Yep.
Is there any moments of your international career that stand out in particular?
Yeah, I get this question quite a lot, and every game's different, but for me, definitely my first cap was the best game, because then at that point I didn't think I was going to get another one. I didn't take for granted that I would get a second cap, a third cap, and then go on to get 105. So pulling on that jersey, the girls that have done it, the guys that have done it, will know what a special feeling is. I can't even describe to you what it is, pulling that national jersey on. So that was a special one. And then my 100th cap, I knew at that point I was pregnant, so I knew I didn't have that many games left to play. And I scored against the world champions at the time, America, in front of over 50,000 fans. So that was also a very special moment.
And obviously being here at Hampden, you've played on the pitch.
Yeah.
But obviously now there's more drive behind the women's game to get matches played here to be equal with the men. It's only a step in the right direction, I feel.
100%, Martin. We weren't as fortunate enough, like the players now, to play in main stadiums all the time. But we played at like McDermott Park, Livingston, Tynecastle, so for us that was massive, and the girls now are playing there weekly, well, more and more weekly, should I say, for their clubs as well, not just for their countries. So it's fantastic, and my last cap, my 105th cap, was here at Hampden, so it was a great send-off for me. And to walk out onto that pitch like the male counterparts was huge for us. We didn't get to do it that much, but just to get it in my career was fantastic.
So then you hung up the boots, but you've now went on to have a successful career in the media. Is that something that you...
Just think I'm successful, thanks.
You seem to be doing all right. Is that something that, as you were coming towards the end of your career, were you thinking ahead of what you would do post-playing?
No, Martin, I did not see myself going into media. Girls that know me in the game, I'm a bit of a joker and stuff, so to put me in front of telly live, yeah, they're brave. But I've absolutely loved every single minute of it. When I retired, like I said, it was a struggle for me mentally to be away from the game, away from the social side of it. So when Sky came in and gave me the opportunity, I was like, this is fantastic. I'm still involved in the women's game, and to have women pundits, it was never a thing.
Yeah.
Never a thing back when I played. So it's fantastic what Sky are doing. They're now, the media for the platform as well for the national team. They're covering the games, and I'm really fortunate that I'm getting that opportunity to do it.
And obviously Sky's been a big investor in the SWPL broadcasting games now, and it's just bringing the game to a whole new generation of girls in particular that maybe wouldn't have necessarily had that opportunity to physically see what they could be.
And that's been a massive change in the women's game. When I played, I mean, there's hardly any videos. So like my kids like, Mum, let me see when you played and when you scored a goal, and I could maybe get 3 out of my whole career. Even when I played at Celtic club level, I don't think there's many games that I could show my kids and me playing or scoring in. So now obviously there's games on the telly, platform as huge as Sky, covering all the games and updates. And also as well, I was saying earlier, I didn't have an inspiration, I didn't have a role model woman in the game. It was all male players. So now every boy and girl out there, I've got women idols and their inspirations, and it's just amazing. Everything's
going in the right direction right now in the women's game in Scotland. However, is it still got a way to go, do you think?
Yeah, of course. Like anything, there's room for improvement, and it's definitely gone in the right direction. I've just heard my career, so where it is now is like hugely moving forward from when I played. But the gulf between here and the WSL down in England, obviously there's still a huge gulf, but I think coming off of the World Cup now, I think it's opened maybe people's eyes to the women's game, and I think we'll find that we'll get a lot more investors here, and like the platforms of Sky getting involved, people now can see the quality, the improvement in the game up here, and I think it's definitely going forward. And you've got Fiona McIntyre in here, who's done an absolute fantastic job for the women's game in Scotland, and having her in what she believes in and pushing the game's only going to get bigger and better here in Scotland.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the work that's going on behind the scenes in SWPL and the SWF is just night and day from where it was even only a few years ago.
Yeah, I don't think people like Fiona McIntyre get the recognition that they deserve. We all just look at what we can see and the work that's been done, on the pitch and stuff. But Fiona, likes of Fiona, and who works alongside Fiona behind the scenes, are the ones that are pushing the game. And as long as they're people like Fiona, their passion and the desire that they've got to improve the women's game, as long as they're in the game, then the game's only going to get bigger and better here in Scotland.
So to round everything up, you've had some career, played with some fantastic players. And you're going to upset some of them now, because I'm going to ask you for your five-a-side team of players that you have played with. 1 goalie, 4 outfielders. Outfielders' positions don't matter.
Right, okay. Goalie, I'd go for Gemma Fay.
Yep.
This is so difficult. Kim Little, Julie Fleeton, Stacey Cook, and I'll go Rhonda Jones as a defender.
You happy with that?
And I'll sit on the bench. Happy with that.
You be the manager?
I'll be the manager. I'll be the gaffer, that's what I'd get the sack right in. Thanks very much,
Right,
Martin.
that's brilliant. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us on SWPL My Story.